Oh, what a show. Sitting there chatting, forgot to put my microphone in, and then I hit the background. We're a mess. We're an absolute mess. Hey, but welcome. That's part, if you know anything about me, that's part of my charm. Like, I screw it all up. So I'm just going to lay that right there for right now and try to get back to putting my background on if I can, because it's really not that difficult. But anyway, man, do I got a lot to get to you today. Holy hell. You know, yesterday we were doing a show and everything was fine, and then all hell broke loose. It did. Hang on one second. I got to get this. This literally happened right before, literally a second before we came on the air. Hey, how are you? It's me, it's Double D, and welcome to the show. All right, I got a lot to get to. I got a lot to talk about to you peoples. As my grandfather, I got a lot to talk about to you people, because I look at a screen and you know what I see? I see my Uncle Roy when he was like 80. Oh, he's a good looking man, but come on. Hey, let's get right into it. All right, Brian Flores. Now, you all understand that a white guy talking about this has to be very careful, right? I mean, you understand this. There's a lawsuit which is going to be potentially very damaging to the NFL. What is the lawsuit? Brian Flores was the head football coach of the Miami Dolphins. Brian Flores was a very good football coach. In fact, I was shocked when Brian Flores was let go, but he was. Brian Flores has sued the NFL for racism in the hiring practices. And I'm going to go through this a little bit, and you decide for yourself. Let me go this route for you first. If Brian Flores thinks that he was racially discriminated against, then good for him. Really good for him bringing a lawsuit. You know, we're starting to hear it now. White people are saying, well, you know, I couldn't get that job because it was going to an African American. And sometimes that's true. It's happened to me. No, Dan, we can't put you on game day. We got no, Dan, okay, fine. And you know what? People are up front. That happens. Let's make no mistake. Let's make no mistake. It happens to white folk. It happens to black folks. It happens to everybody. That happens. What Flores is saying, though, is internally the structure is inherently racist. And if he feels that, then good for him for bringing it up in a lawsuit. A lot of people say, well, everybody sues. Well, no. Look, if you go through it, you have three options, basically, as a human being that feels they have been wronged. One, you can shut up and take it. Two, you can continue on in it. Now, that's not shutting up and taking it. A lot of people get in a business, shut up, take it, and leave the business. Two, you can go along with it and hope eventually it breaks. Or three, you can do something about it. And Brian Flores has chosen, at great risk to him, by the way. At great risk to him and his professional career, Brian Flores has challenged, has stood up and said, this is what we think, this is what we want. His problem is going to be to prove racism. You know, that's going to be a problem. You know, he says that John Elway and the Joe Ellis, the general manager, showed up for an interview an hour late, thought, now didn't have any proof, thought they looked disheveled, thought they looked like they had been out drinking. That's hard to say that's racism. Because I'll guarantee you, John Elway, if that is in fact the case, and his general manager, that ain't the first time. And it probably isn't only when they've had to show up for meetings with African Americans or people that aren't just white. That ain't racism. You know, if in the hiring practices you feel it, there is a sense that this is just a Rooney Rule token interview, and you don't like that, then you know what? Good for Brian Flores to sue on it. Because I do think this, let's just be honest here. Let's be totally honest. Most people feel that the Rooney Rule is exactly what Brian Flores is alleging. Let's be honest. Well, you know, in the NFL, they've got to interview a few minority candidates to make it look right. I've heard so many people say that. I'm not going to lie to you. There was a time in my life where I paid attention to who, what, when, and where every coach that was being interviewed. And I did it somewhat for this show, but I don't follow it nearly as much as I used to. When you're in the coaching profession, you really follow it. So the only thing that I follow is who are the hot guys. I know there's a tier system in the NFL and who's going to get the job. If you feel that to be racist, good for you, but you got to go prove it in a court of law. The most damaging part, at least on the surface, the most damaging part is this. The most damaging part is what Stephen Ross alleged to have done to Brian Flores. Now, Stephen Ross, billionaire owner of the Miami Dolphins. The lawsuit alleges that the owner of the Miami Dolphins offered to pay Brian Flores $100,000 per loss. Now, that's not racism. That's just stupid. Like, how do you say, this is the advantage of not white necessarily, of really rich people. Really rich people don't give a shit, right? Really rich people say, hey, look, I'll give you $100,000 a tank here. We want the number one draft choice. They think without consequence. Well, of course you're going to end up firing the guy. What do you think the guy's going to do? You think the guy's going to stay silent all his life? You think the guy's not going to say anything? You think the guy eventually, it isn't going to come out in this day and age? That's just stupid. I don't know that that's racist, though. I don't know that that's racist. I don't know how that's racist when you say to somebody, hey, look, you got a tank. Now, subsequent to that, Brian Flores alleges that Stephen Ross painted Brian Flores as difficult to work with. Now, that's going to be interesting to prove. If Brian Flores feels that way, and if he feels, as he alleged in the lawsuit, that he was painted as the traditional, quote, angry black man, well, you're going to have to prove that in court, because in terms of way I look at this, Stephen Ross is a little bit insulated in terms of his own hiring practices. You understand what I'm saying? Like Stephen Ross not only hired Brian Flores, but he also hired his general manager, Chris Greer, who is black. Reggie McKenzie, who is black, senior personnel director. His other guy, got it written down here, Marvin something, I can't read my own writing, who is black. So I'm just looking at this. It's easy to get on ESPN. And this is what you're going to see all freaking day. I'm seeing it right now with Jeff Flores. He's impassioned. Everybody's just going to say, hey, the NFL is inherently racist. 70% of the players are black. One black coach, no black owners. Look, that may be. We're going to find out, because it looks like this lawsuit is pretty serious from Flores' side. All the skeletons may be coming out here. But you just can't get on TV and declare that everybody is racist because a lawsuit comes out and says everybody's racist, and that's exactly what you're going to see today. I've got ESPN on a big screen right here, and all you're going to see is everybody posturing. Everybody. That's why you come to Outkick. That's why you come here, because I'm explaining it to you. I'm glad Brian Flores did this. If he feels like the practices are bad, if he feels like he has been discriminated against, I'm glad for him. But the truth of the matter is, you're going to have to prove it. You're going to have to prove that he was discriminated against. And I'm not sure John Elway. Now, he may have been. Let me go to Belichick. Belichick already knew that Brian Daboll had been hired by the New York Giants. Belichick already knew and sent a text to the wrong Brian. You can see him for yourself. Hey, you're their guy, blah, 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 blah. But you're going to have to prove that that's racist. Now, you can say that that may be in violation of the Rooney Rule. You can say that Brian Flores, who was supposed to, 3 days later, was supposed to go interview with the Giants, was being used in conjunction with the Rooney Rule. But is that racist? It seems ridiculous. It seems like a complete waste of everybody's time, mostly Brian Flores's, and second, the Giants. But it looks to me like the wink, wink, nod, nod of the Rooney Rule that it seems to me that people have been saying for years and years and years is now finally getting exposed. Now, I don't know if that's racist. I don't know. Is that a labor violation? I don't know, but I'm glad Brian Flores did this. Now, again, you're going to have to listen. I said this yesterday. The word why. Why would the Miami Dolphins hire so many African Americans if they were a racist organization? Now, people can immediately jump on me, and I'm sure they will, because in this world, you're just supposed to immediately agree and posture. But why would you? I know why Stephen Ross wanted a tank. He wanted the first pick in the draft. And oh, by the way, I believe that first pick in the draft was Joe Burrow, who, oh, by the way, just took Cincinnati Bengals to the Super Bowl. Hey, look, Ross is an idiot for doing what he did, but tanking been around for a long time. Look at the Philadelphia 76ers. If I were Brian Flores, I'd say, no, there's no way in hell I'm tanking. And he did, and good for him. He stood up. I like people that stand up. You know what I mean? But I don't know where all this is racist. Now, this may be, and this is how I read it. And again, people look at me, and they do this all the time. Oh, you're full of shit. You don't understand. And then everything I tell you turns out to be true. It's really amazing because, I don't know, I used to be the fixer in college basketball. Not games, coaches' problems. Hey, Dan, man, I got this situation. What do you think? Okay, here. But when I look at Brian Flores and the lawsuit, here's what I see. Yes, there are specific incidents like the tanking. Yes, there is evidence. Again, I don't know if you can describe it as racist. That's for somebody else to decide, by Bill Belichick. But I see this as the fundamental of Brian Flores' lawsuit. A Supreme Court justice wisely said years ago, I can't define pornography, but I know it when I see it. Let me say that again. I can't define pornography, but I know it when I see it. That's how I feel this lawsuit is. I get what Flores is alleging. And like most things in lawsuits, you can allege against what Brian Flores is alleging. Okay? But I'm guessing Brian Flores can't really define it. He's trying, but he knows it when he sees it. That's the feeling of this to me. The Tom Brady, hey, look, Stephen Ross on his yacht invited Flores. Brady supposedly, allegedly, was a free agent. Flores, as he gets to the yacht, sees it's a prominent quarterback. People are now thinking it's Tom Brady. He leaves. Good for Flores. This is why I'm on Flores' side, because I like people that stand up. But that ain't racist. Again, Stephen Ross being a rich dude, Stephen Ross thinking he's above the rules, Stephen Ross saying wink, wink, nod, nod. That's how I made my money, or maybe it wasn't, I don't know, but seems like that's a part of business, at least according to this lawsuit. So Brian Flores leaves, but that ain't racist. So there's a difference, and like you're not going to hear it on major channels because, let's be honest, white dudes are scared to death of this. Because we all know, like the other day, I put a picture in the wrong spot on Twitter, and oh my God. We know that this is a dicey subject. But as you watch all the reaction to it, the impassioned of all these folks, just ask yourself a question. Anybody asking why or what or when? Or are they just saying, yeah, I told you. Yeah, I said they were. I don't know. I think lawsuits like this are interesting. I got a family full of lawyers. My sister, my brother, my uncle, a bunch of cousins. I like it. I do. And good for Brian Flores, because I'll tell you this, unless somebody is much better than me, unless somebody's much better than me, It would be hard for anybody to hire Brian Flores now. It really would. Now that's just that ain't racist. That's just fact. You know, whistleblowers don't necessarily get hired again. I left West Virginia over they were cheating. I told the story yesterday, but I wasn't brave enough to blow the whistle. I figured I'm leaving. That's my problem. Adios. Going to be interesting. I applaud Brian Flores. I do. But I also say to myself, see what happens here. Other breaking news. The Washington football team renamed their team the Commanders. I honestly don't care. I didn't care about the Redskins. If people were offended, then be offended and change it. That's how I look at it. Am I wrong about that? I mean, look, if Indians were offended by that, then change it. Good for them. I like the Washington football team. I thought that was interesting. You know what I liked about the Washington football team? If you really go around younger people, they love soccer. They love saying, good on you. Hey, good on Dan for talking about this. Good on Lauren for setting up a good show. That's not American speak. That's some kind of soccer speak. So I like the Washington football team. It reminded me of like FC Barcelona. It made us a little more cosmopolitan. The Commanders, I don't know. Okay. It's like the Guardians in Cleveland. Instead of the Cleveland Indians, it's the Guardians. All right. I'm sure it has meaning locally. But to quote a person close to this show, the hell's that nickname? Ain't my deal. Good for them. It starts today. Go get your Guardians gear. But I'll bet you this. Here's what I'm curious about. I wish I had a co-host right now. Because my question would be, do you think you can still buy Redskins gear? Do you think you can buy Redskins gear for how long? I'm telling you, I'm cynical. Every time I see a different jersey, every time I see a coach wearing something on the sideline that's different from the thing before, I'm like, oh, okay, they're trying to sell. Not saying that's the reason the Redskins changed. I'm just saying that they're going to be selling Redskins gear. Maybe not. Seems to me they will. All right. This is the easiest call in the history of coaching. Do you know who Maurice Drayton is? Like, Maurice Drayton was a special teams coach at Green Bay. And we all know the special teams debacle, including on a game-winning field goal against them, they only had 10 players on the field. You can't make a mistake in this world. You make a mistake in this world, man, particularly in the NFL where you got so many people watching, particularly in the NFL playoffs where you got everybody watching, particularly when you got a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers who everybody's watching. Block kicks, block field goals, 10 men on the field, block punt for a touchdown, you got a problem. So we told you this was going to happen. I never, ever, ever like seeing anybody get fired, but Maurice Drayton, the special teams coach of the Green Bay Packers, is looking for work. And, you know, I got to tell you, I don't ever remember Maurice Drayton being a special teams coach. Now, I'm sure I'm wrong, but when he was at Bowling Green, I don't think he was a special teams coach. I don't know. Next one. And, man, remember when Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma and the Oklahoma folk were killing him? You know, one legislator gave him like 3 inches of highway, get the hell out of town, man. Lincoln Riley struck right back at the heart of the Oklahoma Sooners. I mean, bam, at the heart of the Oklahoma Sooners. He took their quarterback. A year ago, this day, or a year ago now, nobody knew other than football wonks who Caleb Williams was. Great recruit. But Shane Rattler was the quarterback. Shane Rattler was the man. He was the guy at Oklahoma until he wasn't the guy. Who became the guy? Caleb Williams. So what happens? Oklahoma, against Lincoln Riley's wishes, goes into the SEC. Lincoln Riley gets an offer, once-in-a-lifetime offer. Go out to USC. People, wow, he made a mistake. Wow, he's this. Okay, all right. Well, guess what? Lincoln Riley came back, and he took your damn quarterback. That one hurts. Hey, look, Oklahoma will be fine. Brent Venables is a good coach. He'll get it figured out. But damn, that one hurts bad. Oof. Let's continue the week, or the midweek roundup. Jimmy G. I love Jimmy G. I don't know why I love Jimmy G, but Jimmy G is the kind of guy you just kind of like. He's as handsome as I am, throws a football a little bit less than I do, and away we go. So Jimmy G wants to go to a team that wants to win. Now, when I heard this, I thought to myself, really? The only team that I know in the NFL that doesn't want to win is apparently the Miami Dolphins, for crying out loud. But everybody else is wanting to win, but here's the difference. When you're the quarterback, you're supposed to make them win. See, I would look at it like this. I would make it like, all right, Jimmy G, I want to go somewhere where they got weapons, man. I want to go somewhere where they got dudes. I want to go somewhere where we can win, where I can make them win. I don't know. Hey, hi, Jimmy G here. I'm interviewing right now with the Washington football team, a.k.a. the Commanders, a.k.a. the Redskins, a.k.a. I don't even know, but we're selling a lot of gear outside. Jimmy G, what do you think, Jimmy G? Well, you know, do you guys want to win? Jimmy G, we really don't. Nah, I can't lie to you. Nah, it's not our thing. Hey, look, we're out here in D.C. We're more political than we are football. Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Jimmy G. I'm sitting down to talk to the Indianapolis Colts. What do you think, Jimmy G? Well, you know, you guys want to win? Nah, not really. No. Why would we want to win? Look, we got a major stadium right here in the middle. We make money without winning. Jimmy, what do you think they're going to say, Jimmy freaking G? Jeez. I don't know what to tell you. Jimmy G, go to a team that wants to win, but more importantly, go to the team that you are going to improve to make them win. I don't know what to make of this. I don't even care. I'm just saying it because it's national news and this is a national show. Ladies and gentlemen, Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association are, quote, not close. And it's Groundhog Day. That little effing Punxsutawney Phil, or whatever the hell his name is, that little pain in the ass saw his shadow. That little pain in the ass is telling us there's 6 more weeks. I don't give a rat's ass about Punxsutawney Phil, that little rodent. You know what I give a rat's ass about? When pitchers and catchers are showing up. I don't even go to spring training. I don't care about spring training. Spring training makes my ass hurt. I don't bet spring training. That tells you how bad it is. But I'll tell you this, it tells me when frickin' spring is here, it makes me feel good to see my guy Tucker Barnhart showing up in his catcher's gear this year, going to be at the Detroit Tigers camp. That's when I feel like it's going to be spring, not when some rodent gets held up by a bunch of old white dudes in fur coats saying, oh, he saw his shadow. Shut up. Give me a headache. Quit giving me a headache. I don't want a headache. Seriously, tell me I'm wrong. Look me in the eye, you sports fans, and tell me I am wrong. I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. You and I both know. We don't give a damn about some rodent. We don't give a damn about that. We give a damn about pitchers and catchers, those of us that live in the cold, those of us that look outside, and right now it's raining in the winter, in February 2nd, and the first question you ask when it rains in the winter, in the Midwest, in February is, well, is it going to get icy? You know you do. That's all we do. Well, is it going to get icy? And it is. It is going to get icy. And all of a sudden, you will see this tonight, and I hope to God, actually, I'm going to pray because I'm going to be on the roads. I hope nobody gets hurt. I hope nobody gets killed. because I-70, which goes east and west, and I-65, which goes north and south, are right here in Indy. And every time it gets icy, every time you see trucks overturned, you see all this kind of stuff. That's what we got in the winter. I want pitchers and catchers. Major League Baseball, get off your ass, figure it out, because I need a picture on the internet of Tucker Barnhart showing up at spring training in his catcher's gear at a Major League Baseball camp facility. Bah! This just in. Ben Simmons continues to be a dumbass. I didn't know this about Ben Simmons. I didn't know that Ben Simmons actually comes to certain things to fulfill his contract. I didn't know that. Who the hell knew that? And right now, and this is what Doc Rivers said. Now, Doc Rivers, 22 years as an NBA head coach. He's been around NBA basketball literally his entire life. Simmons starts whining about Doc Rivers didn't come to me while he was training in New York, blah, 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 blah. Everybody's a little batch here. Not Rivers, Simmons. No, not everybody. Simmons a little batch here. Simmons is sitting there whining. It's all posturing. That's why you haven't heard me. I don't get involved in all that stuff. I'll leave it up to the front office in Ben's camp. I'm staying out, but listen. Some of this stuff I laugh at and feel bad. I think Ben's a good kid. I want Ben to do well. Ben can't shoot. Honest to God. I did a demonstration on ESPN. God dang, do you people with college basketball miss me. I did a demonstration on ESPN about Ben Simmons and why he couldn't shoot. And I swear to God, not one person that is an analyst other than Seth Greenberg understood what I was saying. All these guys are like, well, he's going to be really good at the pros. No, he can't shoot. And there's a reason why. I don't know the reason now. I haven't watched him play enough. You all miss me, and I'm sorry. Not my fault. Well, kind of my fault. Anyway, Ben Simmons continues to be a mess. When we come back, I got some college hoops here. Last night was an interesting night. Also, there is, it's not breaking news, but I'll tell you about an NFL coach, a college coach that's interviewing today for an NFL job. My boy, Sean Black. Thanks for the shout out today on Twitter. Yeah, my boy, Blue. Also, McAfee, Patrick, coming up at 10. Also, Williams, Allison, coming up at 10:30. Don't at me, people. Don't at me. Yeah, if you're going to destroy me, at least spell things right. One guy uses a word that's offensive, and he spells it wrong. I mean, look, Cameron, if you're going to rip me, just at least spell stuff right. I mean, come on. All right, let's talk. I'm getting ready. I think tomorrow I'm just absolutely lose my mind on college basketball. It's gotten so ridiculous. I don't even want to. I'm going to get into college hoops right now, but I'm not going to lose my mind. By the way, Jim Harbaugh is right now today at some point, he is interviewing with the Minnesota Vikings, and I think people expect him to take the job. I got to tell you, we told you this yesterday. I got a source. I got people at Michigan that tell me this deal is not done because Jim is very particular, and anything with Jim isn't done until it is signed. But this deal is all but done. But with Jim, as my guy said, just hold off saying anything's done because it could be a last second, I just don't feel like signing it, and he goes off and reads a book. But it's a pretty serious deal. Michigan's going to have to, I hope the athletic director at Michigan has right here on his top drawer list of 5 guys that he's already contacted. That's what I'd do. I'm not contacting them directly, but I'm contacting them through an agent. Let's talk about some hoops. Texas Tech fans, I got to tie you. I said Texas Tech fans are the best for a football school, Texas Tech basketball fans, and you are. But I got to tell you, I think Auburn's tying you. But Auburn has an advantage, right? Auburn's team's #1 in the country. Bruce Pearl is this crazy guy that really solicits interest. Mark Adams is a new coach. He took over when Chris Beard left and went to Texas. This is what happened yesterday. So Chris Beard, who took Texas Tech to the national championship game, lost in overtime to Virginia. So Chris Beard brings his team back to Texas Tech. Fans are hostile. Got to have a police escort to get into the building. Now look, I know we're not supposed to act that way. Shut up. That's old school. I've told you the story of picking up 75 cents in coins off the court that were thrown at me at Purdue. Don't even try that crap with me. Nobody got hurt. Nobody lost their mind. It was highly charged, and it was freaking awesome. We need more of that in college basketball. We don't need Coach K walking in to play somebody in the United Center in Chicago when one team is on the East Coast, one team's on the West Coast. We need some real rivalries, some real angst. We get to see it every freaking week in football, don't we? Don't we get to see every week? We hate Les Miles. We hate Urban Meyer. We hate Nick Saban. We hate. Go Gator my ass. Go whatever LSU Tigers my ass. GEUX. We get that in football. We don't get it in basketball enough. In fact, Calipari decided he wasn't going to play Indiana after Indiana beat him rush to court. Dangerous. Stop. What's dangerous is doing a broadcast and having an Iowa police officer put on Facebook to shoot you in the head. That was me, and that was a police officer at Iowa. That's dangerous. Guys rushing the court, shut up. Here, if you're a college basketball fan, you probably know the name Kenny Payne. Kenny Payne should immediately, now, Seth Greenberg turned me on to this, immediately be hired as the head basketball coach at Louisville in waiting. What does that mean? Let Pegues and let these guys coach the rest of the year. Do it like a football team. Do you know what I mean? Do it like what they do in football, where they hire a guy, they bring him on campus, he watches practice for the bowl games, he's around the team. You can do it right now. Louisville not going anywhere. Louisville got beat last night, 90-83. Louisville got beat. All right, fine. Look, Mike Pegues is a great dude. Mike Pegues is going to be probably get himself another head coaching position, but this crew ain't going nowhere. Bring Kenny in there, let him get acclimated to everything, let him start recruiting, and let's go. Here's the deal. Purdue did that with Matt Painter for a year. Matt Painter was on the bench for Gene Keady. He was coaching, but he wasn't really. He was the coach in waiting. Painter went out and recruited a hell of a recruiting class. Got Juwan Howard, Etwan Moore, Robbie Hummel. Next thing you know, Purdue's got a nice team. Kind of simple. Kenny Payne's one of your own. Kenny Payne fits the latest mold. It's struggle for Patrick Ewing at Georgetown. It's been flowers for Juwan Howard and championships for Juwan Howard at Michigan, and all flowers for Mike Woodson at Indiana. The next guy is Kenny Payne. He knows college basketball. He's been in the NBA for a couple years, and he's a Louisville grad. Just go ahead and do it. Don't even mess around. Don't even mess around. Speaking of Coach Pegues, hey, I just saw that dude's making $350, got a bump of $345 or whatever it is. Damn. I became the interim coach at Indiana in 2008. I got a bump. What'd I go from about 95 to 190? Feel bad, but hey, Mike Pegues is in a tough job. I'm probably saying his name wrong, but he's in a tough job. You know, you're the interim head coach. It's not quite at Louisville like the, you know how the teacher can be skipping school and the substitute teacher's in there and you don't totally relax. You do your stuff, but it just isn't the same, if that makes sense. It just isn't quite, you know, and that's where you're at with a substitute teacher. That's exactly where you're at. You're just in that position. And, you know, frankly, it's a tough spot. It's a better spot for Mike than it is for others. Like, I didn't coach it. I was a coach at Indiana, but I was like the director of ops. And next thing you know, they make me the head coach, and all these guys who were too busy smoking weed and not going to class were mad about it. But good for him. He's going to make a little bit of money. A bit of money, actually, and he's going to end up getting himself a nice job somewhere, but that doesn't do anything for him right now because you want to frickin' win, and you want to win so much that you demand, and they demand, that you take the job at Louisville if you're Mike Pegues. That's it. I remember when I was the interim coach, they asked me on Mike and Mike, who should be the head coach at Indiana? I was the head coach at Indiana. What am I going to say? Hey, I think Steve Alford should be. Screw that. I'm like, I should be. Anyway. The Big Ten isn't great. The Big Ten isn't the best conference. The Big Ten had a couple pretty good games last night. Izzo did Izzo stuff. You know what that is? That's 12 seconds to go in a game, timeout, right in front of him. Does it every game, every half, right in front if he has the ball. Draws up a play. Next thing you know, Malik Allen, layup, Izzo on the road, beats up, and not a beat up, but beats Maryland. Michigan, workmanlike against Nebraska last night. But the Big Ten has 7 guys on the wooden watch list. 7. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, but 7 guys. There's some real talented kids in the Big Ten. I don't know if any of them are going to be... oh, what's the right word? I don't know if any of them are going to be, other than Jay Ivey, great pros. Isn't that what we always look at? We always look at who's going to be a pro. Dan, who of these guys, Jay Ivey, Zach Edey, Kofi Coburn, Keegan Murray, Trace Jackson Davis, E.J. Liddell, and Johnny Davis are going to be great pros? I don't know. I would take Jaden Ivey first if I had the first pick in the NBA draft as we sit here right now based on what I've seen. I think Johnny Davis would be a top 10 pick for me, maybe a top 5. I don't know whether these big guys are good enough, that can shoot it enough, go inside out enough for the modern NFL game. I don't know. But look at this. We got Greeny with Brian Flores and his 2 attorneys. I'll tell you this about Brian Flores. He sure did not get a very diverse group of attorneys. I don't think you can be wider than those 2 guys. Anyway, it's pretty good. So there's a lot of good players. I don't know if any of these guys are going to make it. But I did think it's pretty interesting. I did. I think it's pretty interesting that there's 7 guys out of 25. Actually, of the 20 players on this revised. So there's 27 from the Big Ten. Last I looked, that's 35%. Oh, man, what a world we live in. Thank you, world. Thank you. Hey, we talked about goats. Not the kind of goat. No. We talked about goats. Greatest of all time. I don't know. And everybody's got their list. Like if you go to my Twitter feed, @Dan Dakich, somebody made this for me. I think it's funny, but people throw it back in my face. On my little profile picture is Mount Rushmore, and my picture is on every one of the ex-presidents or whoever the hell's on Mount Rushmore. Well, Dakich, you're so arrogant. No, I thought it was funny. It's not funny, Dakich. Why isn't it funny? You suck, Dakich. I do. Anyway, I got goats. Totes my goats. Look, when I was a kid, Muhammad Ali was great, old, retired, great again, then old and retired. Like when I was a kid, and I'm old, but I remember his first fight against Frazier, Madison Square Garden. I know I've said it. To me, the all-time GOAT isn't necessarily Tom Brady, isn't necessarily Michael Jordan, and isn't necessarily Muhammad Ali. You can spread them out in various fields. But Muhammad Ali, I was not old enough to go through the 60s with Muhammad Ali. I was not old enough to see Muhammad Ali throw his gold medal in the river, the Ohio River. I wasn't old enough to understand Muhammad Ali's draft position. I wasn't old enough to know the sacrifices Muhammad Ali made. But I got old enough, and I love him. I got old enough, and I watched him fight. I remember being so proud. I told my mom, I put it in a note in a box, Leon Spinks is going to beat Muhammad Ali. But I was a Muhammad Ali fan. Now, truth of the matter is I love to watch Muhammad Ali box because he was different. Joe Frazier had all this. Muhammad Ali had all this. George Foreman had all this. Kenny Norton had all this. It was awesome. It was freaking awesome. But Muhammad Ali, look, when I watched him box, I never saw anybody that boxed like him. When I watched him taunt, I never saw anybody that taunted like him. I never saw anybody that replicated what Muhammad Ali did in boxing. It's not to say that people are better. Look, I've never really seen anybody replicate what Mike Tyson did in boxing. And you can make the argument that Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier are about equal. They fought 3 times, pretty much equal. But I got to tell you, for style, I got to tell you, for impact, for copycatness, is that a word? For copycatness. What do they say? Impersonation is the best form of flattery. Nobody could impersonate it. I'll never forget, and you guys will remember this that are old enough, rope-a-dope. My dad came home. He had gone to, I guess, a bar or wherever to watch, came home. I go, Dad, who won? He goes, oh, you're not going to believe this. Muhammad Ali sat on the ropes against the hardest puncher ever, Foreman, took blows. Then when Foreman got tired, he beat the hell out of him. So I'm like, Dad, who won? Because I was like 10. He goes, Ali won, dummy. I go, oh, yeah, okay. But in my world, Muhammad Ali never, ever duplicated. This next one, like people are going to say Tom Brady's the GOAT. He probably is. I mean, I'm not going to argue whether Tom Brady's the GOAT, not the GOAT. I'm not arguing any of it. But the truth of the matter is the best football player I've ever seen is Walter Payton of the Chicago Bears. Sweetness, look him up. I've never seen anybody do things on the football field that Walter Payton did. Walter Payton high-stepped way before Deion Sanders high-stepped. There's an unbelievable video of Walter Payton jumping over the line to score a touchdown, and he comes and he hits his head, and his head's like a shock absorber and then bounces up. It's the damnedest thing you're ever going to see. Walter Payton blocked with a ferocity. Walter Payton had style. Walter Payton was cool. Walter Payton was fast. Walter Payton would put his head down, knock guys over. Older guys than me may say Jim Brown. Younger guys than me may say Barry Sanders. But my football GOAT, I've never seen anybody across the board play football better than Walter Payton. You want Wally P to block? Wally P gonna give you something. You want him to catch a pass? Wally P gonna catch it. One thing Walter Payton always did, and so of course growing up, we always did this. He always, when he got tackled, extended the ball. Why are you trying to do that? Trying to get extra yards. Walter Payton was a bad man, man. Walter Payton, best I ever saw. I'd be curious. We're on Twitter. We're at Outkick. I'd be curious. Who's the best you ever saw? I got 3 or 4 more to go, but I am curious. Like, if I'm saying Walter Payton and you're saying a running back, does it immediately go to Barry Sanders? Does it immediately go to Joe Montana if you're not going to take Tom Brady? Does it immediately go somewhere automatic? Same thing with boxing. I think boxing's a little different, don't you? I think boxing's one of those things where you go, you know what? Let's be honest. When you think of boxing, you think of Ali. Period. All right, next GOAT. Look, if I were old enough to see Wilt Chamberlain, I'd say Wilt Chamberlain. I would. I'd say Wilt Chamberlain. I mean, you look at the numbers, they're insane. I wasn't old enough to see him. I can only go by who I see. But who I've seen, Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player. I would put Kareem in there too. I should. I didn't. I wish I did. Because those two I've always said, with a caveat. I'm starting to think by the time we're done here, I'm starting to think that it's going to be, freaking LeBron James. I am. And I know you're starting to think that too. I know you are. I know that people are starting to think, hey, look, this might be LeBron James. He's starting to put up numbers that are stupid. He's starting to put up idiotic numbers. He's starting to put up the kind of numbers that you go, wait a second, hold the phone. I don't know that you can make a case other than numbers-wise, Kareem or Wilt. I don't know that you can make a case for anybody but LeBron James. It's starting to get to that point, and I don't like it. I don't. Because when you are of an era, you want that era to be the best. You want that guy to be the best. A lot of people on the YouTube chat are saying MJ. A guy asked me, hey, Dan, are you going to put out Olympic gambling picks? No, I'm not a, yeah. Sean Black, I'm on it. Sean Black. All right, next. Tom Brady. Dan, you already said Walter Payton, greatest of all time. I did. Football player. Tom Brady's best quarterback / best personality, football personality I've ever seen. Like, Tom Brady's made missteps. And this was interesting. 4 or 5 years ago, Tom Brady was a villain. Tom Brady had to smash his cell phone. Tom Brady had a hide. Tom Brady took a 4-game suspension. Tom Brady was the guy that people said, hey, wait a second here, he cheats. He's a cheater. Nobody smashes their cell phone unless they're a cheat. Let me explain something to you. Let me explain this very clearly, okay? If a non-law enforcement entity wants my cell phone to incriminate me, one, I ain't giving it up. Now, I don't have any nudes on there. Like, I'm not that guy. I've never been porn guy. I've never been, hey. No, never. I'm not, and that's not the reason. I just don't want people going through my stuff. And on a phone, don't we all have financial stuff? Don't we have all kind of stuff? So anyway, Brady smashing his phone to me didn't really help him. He still got a 4-game suspension. People forget about that. But has anybody made a better comeback, a bigger comeback in terms of public persona than Tom Brady? I'll tell you one guy who has, guy coming up, Pat McAfee. Pat had a problem as a rookie. I never heard anybody handle it better. And now Pat is a freaking beloved human being all across the country and maybe internationally. He's made a hell of a comeback. But Brady made a hell of a comeback. People forget Brady was vilified, man. Brady was the freaking worst. Brady, she should go to jail. He should be kicked out of football. Deflategate, blah, 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 blah. Now the dude gets hammered on a boat flipping around the Lombardi Trophy, and everybody's like, this guy's the greatest. Winning cures. Winning cures, baby Bubba. It simply does. It does. I don't know what to tell you, but he won in Tampa. He threw to Lombardi. People, of course, wanted to lose their effing minds. Stop. And last one's Jennifer Aniston. I want you to go to my wife's Twitter page. My wife's Twitter page, Lee Ross. Jennifer Aniston, to me, is the GOAT of actresses. I went through this. I love Julia Roberts. Love her. I will watch, and I don't know half people's names, but I know them when I see them. Love Julia Roberts. All right? Love her. Not really big. I was on Courtney Cox, and then she had a show from Florida. Yeah. But when I think about actresses or actors, I think about whose movie would I watch. Like, I'll watch Denzel. I'll watch Leonardo DiCaprio. But I'll watch Clooney. Pitt, I'm on the bubble on. Whoever the young dude that was in Sons of Anarchy, I don't know his name, but I'll take him. He's great. There's a number of males that I will watch their movies, fair or unfair. I'll watch Mike Epps. I love Mike Epps. There are some dudes that make me laugh. Chris Tucker, I laugh. I think it's Chris Tucker. Ice Cube, I laugh. Ice Cube's in a movie, serious or funny, I'm watching. There's not that many women. I hate to say this, but in my world, there's not. I love Julia Roberts' laugh. Every guy my age would run through a mile of glass just to say hello to Halle Berry. I mean, make no mistake. But Jennifer Aniston to me is the GOAT. Jennifer Aniston to me is funny. Jennifer Aniston to me is classy. Jennifer Aniston to me in the morning show is terrific. When Steve Alford was the coach at UCLA and I was divorced, I'm like, hey, let me know if you ever see Jennifer Aniston out there. I did this one time when I went to LA. There was a lady named Leah Thompson. Now, I don't know how many people are my age, but if you are, you'll remember the movie All the Right Moves. All the Right Moves was a Tom Cruise, Leah Thompson, Am Pipe was the town in Pennsylvania. Every guy my age fell in love, probably in college then, with Leah Thompson. I went out to LA after college, drove out there with a couple buddies, had a great 2 weeks, and I searched for Leah Thompson. Found her. She was at the premiere of a movie called Howard the Duck. Went out to LA. Couldn't find Jennifer Aniston. Alford never found Jennifer Aniston, but Mike Lewis did, who's currently an assistant at UCLA, and he sent me a picture. He said, Coach D, J.A. across the street. I think she's funny. I think she can be serious. I think she's classy. And I think when she is in a movie, and she's beautiful, I think when she is in a movie, I watch. There just aren't that many people. Like I was watching the other day, Seinfeld was in a show called 30 Rock. He wasn't funny not being in Seinfeld. I guess he had some stand-up racial jokes, but anybody seen, what's the guy, Richards, who played Kramer? Love the character. Anything that Costanza's in now, Jason Alexander, pretty good in Pretty Woman. Other than that, Very few people. Joey Tribbiani, think about it. Very few people transition. Clooney did. I'm a big fan. That's my GOATs. Muhammad Ali, probably all time and everything. Walter Payton, best football player all around I've ever seen. Michael Jordan, best basketball player, but I would put Kareem in there. Tom Brady, best transition from bad to good in a short period of time. And Jennifer Aniston, she gets the Danny for best actress. Oh no, we're giving Dammys away in a little bit. Yeah, that's a good list. If you have a list, let me know. Go to, we don't use it very much, but I do have an email, dan@1070thefan.com. We have a show email, and I keep screwing it up. Super Bowl Shuffler, I only saw Payton a handful of times. He was amazing. Blocking, receiving, running. Anthony Thompson trained with him and ran the hill. That's right. Yeah, he did run the hill because there was a player named, God dang it, I forget his name, Kelly, who was Walter Payton's running mate. And all Walter Payton did was run a hill. He didn't have elaborate workouts. He didn't have elaborate nothing. That's it. That's it. So at the end of the day, you know what? Walter Payton was a badass. Walter Payton died way too young. Way too young. We're going to get into a number of things. Pat Mack's going to join us, Pat McAfee. He got a $120 million FanDuel deal, but he did cool stuff with it. I also want to talk, there's an NFL study on marijuana that he was talking about yesterday. I want to get into that a little bit, and it's for pain management, which I think a lot of people, and McAfee straightened me out a few years ago. I ain't going to lie. I was saying the Colts didn't have playmakers, and Pat's like, what, I flipped the field. What, you don't think somebody that flips the field 60 to 80 yards isn't a playmaker? Swear to God. Pat McAfee's made punting cool. Also going to talk to Allison Williams. Allison Williams grew up in Michigan. She's the bravest woman. People owe her an apology. We're going to get into that too because of a whistleblower in the Army. I'm going to get into that with her. Also, I got some fades for you. We're going to make $1,000. Yesterday we went pretty good, but Pat Mack's going to join us next. He's going to give us 20 good minutes. I can't wait. Stay right here. Look, I'm not going to lie. I think I'm the greatest in the history of the world, but I'm currently at least second to this guy, Pat McAfee. He's taught me things. I'm going to get into that in just a minute. You taught me something very valuable one time, but before I get into it, this lawsuit that Brian Flores has, I'm looking at it, and there's a lot of things. He's going to have to prove racism and all that stuff. But have you ever heard of an owner saying, hey, look, let's just straight tank. I'll give you $100,000 per loss? Is that the worst non-racial thing?
Yeah, well, Double D, obviously it's an honor to be here with you. Okay. I mean,
Okay.
we watched the clips. I was so incredibly pumped for you whenever you got this deal without kick. I think the internet is a place where Dan Dakich would do very, very well. I live in Indianapolis, as do all my boys. So we've gotten a chance to experience the Dan Dakich experience for years now on 1070 The Fan here. And the waves and the ripple effect that Dan Dakich causes in the entire sports media landscape in Indiana. I've gotten a chance to experience it. So I'm pumped for you. I'm thankful to be here. I appreciate you having me. Now, I got a chance to be on a team, and got a chance is an interesting way to describe that, where the Suck for Luck campaign was happening all outside of the building, right? So everybody was like, hey, let's think, because Andrew Luck is right around the corner. He's sitting on deck. Peyton Manning has this neck thing. Nobody knows if he's going to be able to grip a football again. But inside the locker room, the coaches, the players, there was none of that shit, Dan. I mean, you're talking about players and coaches fighting every day for their jobs. And like, hey, whenever the players have to go out there, that's on film. So that's a resume builder basically for every other job that you could potentially have with every other team, no matter where it is, even if it's in the CFL, the XFL, the USFL. Nobody wanted to tank and play bad because there was potentially a good player on the other side. This is professional football. Now, with Brian Flores coming out and saying that he was offered $100,000 per loss, that questions the integrity of the entire league, Dan. And if he's able to prove that, that's a big time problem, because the NBA had this issue, right, where they were tanking to get into the lottery so they could maybe have a 4% chance or a 4% better chance to get the top pick or whatever and change their entire franchise. If Beef was able to prove that, whether it's text messages or emails or whatever the case is, that is a massive ordeal. Now, obviously, Beef Low saying that there's racism happening in the interviews and he can feel it and he's experiencing that. That's another whole massive catastrophic type issue the NFL will have to deal with. So there's a lot that's going on here. Who knows how many other people will be involved? Who knows what else will be found out through the entire thing? But it's definitely not a great morning for the NFL, and hopefully it all works out for the good.
Hey, the idea, I feel like people have always kind of wink, nodded at the Rooney Rule to interview minority coaches. You're inside it way more than me. Is my feeling of that wrong?
I don't know. I don't know, because I don't know those people. It like the billionaire owners. I don't know the billionaire owners. And I don't know the consulting agencies that they use to make the decisions for them. It feels as if you look at the results of what the Rooney Rule has garnered, it does feel like it's a wink, nod. Let's just do this to check off the list and see who we can get in here, and then we could get to what we want to do. But if you listen to any former player that gets into coaching, or any of these coaches that talk about it, there seems to be quite a flawed process in deciding who's the next head coach of a billion-dollar organization. And I don't know, hopefully we're able to fix this. And I think that's what B-Flow is basically saying. I only heard a couple things in comments from his lawyers, but Brian Flores is okay with being the guy who leads the charge, saying that the Rooney Rule is all BS. But the NFL, just like I experienced whenever I was in the NFL with the CBA negotiation, they got a lot of lawyers too. So like this is going to get ugly. This is going to be big. And hopefully in the end, the right thing will come about, and we'll see a much better, hopefully, landscape for everybody.
Every time you're talking about billionaire owners, and you do not need to comment on this, but every time I'm in the sixth floor at Emmis, I look across at one of these tall buildings, and I always think McAfee took all their money in a poker game. He took all those guys' money from those big buildings in a poker game. The billionaires of Indianapolis don't play poker with McAfee. Don't comment on that.
I don't know if they're billionaires, the guys I played with, but they had a lot of money. I think they had a lot of money, and they were good fish at those tables. I'll tell you that, DD. But I appreciate you.
They were a lot less when you were done with them, big boy. They had a drop in a bucket.
It was a drop in a bucket for them. It was a drop in a bucket for them. It was big for me though. I got new shoes and stuff.
When you were talking yesterday, and I think this is interesting for people, because I think people just feel like, hey, look, NFL players, just go out there and play. You're not real people. You don't really get hurt. You were talking about the possibility of the NFL looking into legalizing weed or marijuana or however, THC, whatever it is, for pain. You believe that, don't you? You believe that that's important.
I'm a firm believer in that, yeah, mostly because, now granted, in India, it's not legal, so I can't talk about doing it on the day-to-day. Obviously, I would never do that and do something illegal. But when I travel to a state in which it is legal, it is always nice to experience the benefits of the cannabis plant. And I think It has been around for so long. Obviously, it goes stories of thousands of years, depending upon how you about cannabis and marijuana either being a part of negotiations, peace pipes, or making people feel better. And then I think it got politicized, obviously, with the first impression of marijuana for a lot of people, especially the people in power right now, were with a group of humans who didn't necessarily represent everything that they thought America should represent. I think when the hippies got tied together with the marijuana, I think there was a quick first impression of, oh, we hate marijuana, we hate hippies, and now those people are potentially in power right now. So marijuana and cannabis was always discussed as basically who is doing it as opposed to what it does for the people that are smoking it. And I think we're continuing to evolve in the nature of research and studies and science. And I know Governor Holcomb here in Indiana said, I want to see more research. I want to see more research. There seems to be a never-ending amount of research that says there's a lot of benefits to this potential plant. And now that the NFL has dabbled in it a little bit with $1 million, and $1 million, what is that really in the end of the day? Probably nothing. But the fact that people are now getting a chance to learn about all the goodness that comes from this one plant, whether it's CBD, THC, CBN, whatever the case is, there's a lot of arthritis folks that were anti-smoking ganja for a long time. But once they got a chance to experience edibles and they felt a little bit of lightness in their knees and their joints, they're like, wait a minute, but all this thing that I heard was terrible and would make me lazy and make me fat, make me hate America is actually something that makes my body feel good. And I still have the same drive as I used to have. It's just a fascinating time. And anytime the NFL dabbles in something, I normally think naturally, because I'm kind of blinders on, focused in my own little world. If the NFL does something, normally that's a ripple effect for the rest of the world. And I'm hoping that's the case for everybody in this particular avenue, because I think we've all seen and all felt the effects of opioid abuse and what pharmaceuticals could potentially do. And if there's a nice alternative that guys want to take, I think more power to them. They should be able to do it, especially in the modern world we're in.
Damn, that was smooth. That was very nice. $120 million you got from FanDuel, and that's great, obviously, wonderful. But you did some things that I want to brag on you about. You went back, gave money to high schools. You went back and helped your hometown, man. And I want to say thanks. What exactly did you do?
Well, I got grossly overpaid to kick balls in the NFL. All right, so that's what I did. I got grossly overpaid to kick balls in the NFL. Now, granted, market price, I think it was very reasonable, probably underpaid. But whenever you talk about what I was doing per cost, per payment, I was grossly overpaid to kick balls. I got very lucky, obviously, to have a Twitter account. You saw the very beginning of that whenever it caught on and everybody seemed to enjoy it. Then I started this media career, and now we just so happened to hit a home run with sports gambling being legalized at the same exact time. I own my own network, have my own people. So whenever you get grossly overpaid to do something and you dream of this whole thing, you dream of a moment like this, getting this type of cash, and 120 million, I mean, it might be right, might be lower than what I'm actually getting. Might be. I mean, who knows?
Gotcha.
I mean,
Okay.
That's all self-reported. That's just from one company too. I have other partners as well. Shout out to 5 Hour Energy and everything else like that. But it was automatically, the first thought was, I have to give back and say thank you to everybody that has potentially been a part of this entire ride for me. So I went back to my Little League baseball, soccer, Little League football, gave them checks for like $250,000, football $250,000, started a fund for my high school with $2 million that athletes can kind of dive into and get whatever they need, new clothes, new cleats, new uniforms, new everything. And that's kind of already taken place. Gave to a couple children's hospitals, gave to Robert Mathis's Gridiron Gang for scholarships for kids to get proper training, gave to the Payton Manning Children's Hospital another $1 million. It's basically me saying this is too much money. Nobody deserves this money. But if I got it, I might as well say thank you to a bunch of people that helped get me here. And that's all I did. I feel like it's the right move. I would assume Double D would do the same exact thing when his check comes.
I would, and I have, but a lot less than that, brother.
No, it's all proportional.
But you know what? Right, that's what we're supposed to do. That to me is what I do. Bikes for kids, okay, and then we do a number of other things. But I feel like that's what you're supposed to do, and that's why that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I don't think everybody does that. What I like about it, Pat, is I want to make it public because I want other people to realize, okay, let's do this. Because a lot of people, I mean, you're global, man. You've gone from, you're one of the great comeback stories in the world from where you were, when you were a rookie here to where you are now, and to see what you're doing and not forgetting. I just want more people to hear the story. I do. I think it's fantastic. I think it's the best story about you.
I appreciate that, Dan. That means a lot, obviously. And you've been here literally I don't want to say alongside me, but you've seen me literally from the beginning of this entire thing. And you've seen my growth, I think. You've seen my mistakes that I've made. You've got an opportunity to see my growth on the field as well. I think you've heard about my teammates. I think you've heard a lot about my teammates in the community, about hopefully the respect that I've garnered from everybody. And, anytime you do something philanthropical. There was a long time where I was trying to do things quietly. Like, hey, I want to do this. I don't want people to think I'm only doing this for the public publicity. I don't want people to think that. I want to do this because I feel real fulfillment. I used to pay off bills for people before Thanksgiving down here at, I don't know what it is now, AES, maybe IPL. I forget what it's called now. The power company, basically. I had something going for a couple years where I would just pay off people's bills if they were showing up to repay their bills. So if they were on a payment plan, they would show up and they would pay their bill, and they'd get there and they'd say, hey, your bill has been set to zero. Can have a great holiday or whatever. It was around Thanksgiving. I would do that. And I did that for years and years. And it was awesome. I get some photos of people like losing their mind, and it was really awesome. And then the president of the company, I think, I forget who it was one of them, said, hey, can we tell people you do this so that maybe more people will feel the urge to do the same thing? And it wasn't until that conversation and that I saw them kind of publicize it, and then more people started doing it, that I understood why publicity is a good thing for philanthropical things. I never really got why people always had cameras around. Like, hey, if you're going to do something good, do it. I don't need to hear about it. But then whenever it was kind of laid out to me, like, hey, when you do something good, this almost drives other people to want to maybe do the same thing. We can grow this entire net. So that was a hurdle I had to get over. I think for you as well. I think we're pretty similar people. What you do with that bike thing is amazing. I've seen those hundreds and hundreds of bikes and those kids hopefully getting back active and everything like that. So that was a hurdle I had to get over. And now I'm just at the point where I still do stuff that people don't hear about, but if it's potentially going to lead to others doing it, why not put a little spotlight on it, a satellite on it, and let's go ahead and move on,
Hey, you educated me. I agree with everything you said. That's exactly what we did with the bikes. We started out just Lee and I going to the store, and next thing you know, I said when you were with the Colts don't have enough playmakers. They don't have playmakers, and you're like, hey, Double D, I flipped the field 60 to 80 yards. Is that not a playmaker? You've made punting cool, and you're absolutely right. That is one question. How did you go? What do you think made punting cool? How did you do it? And the second question is Evan McPherson an American hero, and how hard is it to do what that kid's doing right now for the Bengals?
I'll talk about Evan McPherson first because I love that dude. Have you heard his confidence, Double D? This dude's confidence.
Yes.
And you know from basketball, whether playing or coaching or anything like that, whenever you're dealing with something that it involves like little minute muscles doing things, or potentially, so if you start thinking at all, that can all get messed up. You can get a little tight, and then boom, it's a missed free throw in the biggest moment. So the fact that he has enough confidence to just let himself swing, you got to think about how much work goes into that. How many, whenever nobody saw him putting in the kicks and the reps and the leg swings and the muscle memory, for him to show up in the biggest moments and say, well, it looks like we're going to the AFC Championship, boys. And then he walks out there, hits a 52-yarder without even knowing it. And before the ball even goes through, he's celebrating like, yeah, this is it. I think just the mental state of mind, which I guess is the same thing there. The state of mind that he has gotten himself to through a lot of work that we haven't seen, and the confidence he has is at a level that not a lot of people ever attain. I think I got a chance to chat with Adam Vinatieri yesterday about Tom Brady's retirement and his thoughts on Evan McPherson, who's trying to break some of his playoff records right now, actually. And he even told me, like, hey, I saw that ball that's on your desk, and I saw some of Adam Vinatieri's records there at the bottom. I want to go get them. Like he said, I'm trying to go get him. And I told Vinatieri this, and Vinatieri heard it. That's something that me and Vinatieri love. Like that's the type of athlete, competitor, type of person we want representing kickers and punters. Because for so long, the kicker and the punter, although, very off by yourself, there was always this image that they're not athletes. They just are out there, they're selling stocks during the day, and then they go kick. I just think that natural competitive mindset kind of guided me to a place where if I pin somebody at the 5 and all the work that I put in to learn how to do this, like I'm going to celebrate naturally. And hopefully if that brings a little bit of a boost to anybody or a little bit of juice to the building, I'm cool with that. But most importantly, I'm setting the defense up to hopefully make a big time play. I'm scoring points by pinning them deep, because if they have to punt it back, we're already in field goal position. Let alone the onside kicks, in the fakes, in the running, in the throwing, in the tackling, double D. I mean, there is just an opportunity at the kicking and punting position to make plays. And if you have the right mindset, you can do it. But for far too long, I don't think kickers and punters really, kind of embrace that whole thing. And if I was one of the first to ever do it, I'm not saying I was the first. There's obviously greats that came before me, but I think I was one of the first that embraced the fact that, hey, I'm okay knowing that I'm more athletic than most people that walk this earth. I'm putting in a lot of work, and I'm going to try to do my thing. But I'll tell you what, Dan, when you're down 21 in the fourth quarter and you're the punter, there ain't shit you can do, So I'm sitting there on the sideline just like everybody else, like, let's go, boys. So there is obviously a balance in that whole thing, Dan.
Yeah, but all right. Who did you blow up on the sideline on like Monday night or Sunday night football? Some returner.
Yeah, so Sunday night football was obviously the Trendon Holiday hit. Now, I had like 60 pounds on that guy. I mean, legitimate. I'm 240 walking around, I'm 240 pounds. He was like 170, I think, 180. I got real lucky. Blind squirrel found a nut there. But there's been others.
What was you're kicking, you're coming down, you're looking to make a tackle, but you're also an athlete. You knew you were blowing him up. Do you remember the feeling like 2 steps before you got him, and how great a feeling that was? Because you had to know you were blowing this guy up, which is not, you're not Robert Mathis doing it every possession, every play.
Yeah, well, I was sore every time I made a tackle. I think I had like 24 tackles or 21 tackles. I was sore for a good 3 to 4 days afterwards, every single one. So I have no idea how the guys at other positions are able to hit each other on every single play. You're talking like 30, 40 car crashes some guys are getting into every single Sunday, Thursday, Monday, Saturday, whatever day they're going to have them play. I think the 2 steps before Trendon Holiday, I was probably thinking, and I have no idea. I couldn't dabble in there. I normally blacked out when I went off the field and did my thing. I think I was just excited that I caught him. Because that was an old angle tackle. And he was an Olympian sprinter too. Like, he was an Olympic sprinter. So whenever he gets clear and I'm just trying to eye him and hopefully hit the angle properly, I think I was just excited that I was maybe in the area. There was still a lot of doubt, though, I think, until the contact was made, that he wasn't just going to skirt right by me. I got very lucky. That was a very big night. There was a lot of people watching too, obviously, because that was Payton's first night back in the building. We got a big time win there. And obviously I got a gift forever on making maybe a little bit of a tackle there on the sideline.
Hey, I know you got to run. Who you like? Who you like in the Super Bowl?
Oh, I don't know. Let me see what these interviews are like next week, Dan. I want to see who's handling the moment. Joey Burrow and them, I don't think they have a clue. I don't think they even know that they're in the Super Bowl. I think Joey Burrow is just like, I'm supposed to be in the Super Bowl. What are we even doing? Like, I think Jamar Chase, I think Higgins, Boyd, Mixon, that entire crew. Like, I honestly believe Cincinnati doesn't know what they don't know right now. Those Mcpherson as well.
What are you looking for in the interviews? What would you tell a fan? Hey, man, don't just buy into what a guy's saying. What are you looking at?
Just comfort. Just like comfort. How comfortable do they look? For instance, a couple years back when the Eagles went on that run, right before the NFC Championship, they showed a video of the team meeting, and they were playing Meek Mill's Dreams and Nightmares, and everybody in the room, including the old white coaches, were dancing to this song. And I was like, oh, there's a team. There's a team that's probably going to go on to win. And they obviously did. It's like that team is so comfortable in the work that they put in. They know exactly who they are. They know what they're supposed to do. The moment isn't too big for them. Like, that's what I'm looking for, is just comfort amongst the team, because normally you can find out what the pulse of the coaches are through the players. And I think if everybody's just kind of cool, calm, and collected, it's just another day at the job. Not saying that any of these teams will give away that they're a little bit uptight or anything like that, but that is what I want to see the Super Bowl week, see how they handle all the bullshit that comes with being in the Super Bowl.
You ever smoke a cigar in a locker room after a win? Ever? College, pro?
What type of cigar?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
Yeah. Well, I never in the locker room smoked any blunts, but I mean, I had a couple after some games every once in a while with some people. Obviously, when we were in states in which it was legal. My point wasn't that. My point is Joey Burrow sitting there in the locker room at LSU. He and
Jamar Chaser smoking cigars in the locker room after the game. That's what I'm talking about. It's celebration.
Hey, that's old school, isn't it? That's old school. It feels like Joey Burrow's an old school guy, doesn't he?
I agree. You feel that way to me too, even though you're the epitome of new school. You never did it. Never smoked a cigar, never took a shot of whiskey in the locker room after a game.
Oh, whoa. Now, shot of whiskey. Now, let's not get crazy. I mean, I was forced to do a couple of those. A little tequila. What? Maybe some beers. What? But I'm not a big cigar smoker. But yeah, I mean, I've had a couple drinks in the locker room to celebrate it. Did you see the special teams crew in Cincinnati slamming shots of whiskey there in the locker room?
Yes. That's why I asked. Yes.
It's awesome. That's beautiful. Colt Anderson over there, by the way, former personal protector of mine, is now one of their special teams coaches. And he talked about just that culture in there, how beautiful it is. That's something that every team is looking to have. And at the professional level, it's very difficult because the amount of egos and money and everything that comes with it. That Cincy team, I mean, they don't have an indoor practice facility. So let's figure that out. There's an entire, I think there's 18 inches of snow coming. LA is not going to have to deal with that. The Rams aren't going to have to deal with that. So maybe the Bengals will have to. But that team is a young group. It seems to be very tight. They got the chemistry right. And who would have thought whenever Zach Taylor was, 4-20 as a coach, that maybe he would have been able to put together a culture that go on this run. But that's what happens when you get guys. And Joey Burrow and them are absolutely that. Just like Dan Dakich is, dude.
Yeah. Noon to 3, Sirius, noon to 3 right here. You see him. Pat McAfee, the best. Hey, I appreciate it. I know you got to run, man. Thanks for a few minutes. You're the best. You're so funny. You're the best.
No, you're the best, dude. I got a call at 10:30. You know, I handle these business calls now. I'm an old man. I got a lot of handshaking to do. But anytime I get a chance to chat with Dan Dakich, I love doing it. Thank you for the invite and congrats on all of this.
Thank you, my friend, and congrats to you as well. That's the best, Pat McAfee. I'll never forget, he straightened me out on Twitter, too. I'm like, hey, the punter. He goes, all-pro punter. But I'm telling you, ever since he told me about playmakers, I'm like, freaking makes sense. Makes freaking sense. You change the field. That's what the punters do. And he's right. I'm telling you, that is a loose crew. All right, real quick, I got some fades for you that I like. Just bet this tonight. We're going to make money. Don't worry about it. Just bet it tonight. Take Butler plus 12 at Xavier. Butler's playing really well. Butler's playing really, really well. Xavier is just okay. Xavier's fine. All right? They're fine. They're good. They'll win the game. But I think Butler hangs around here. Take Butler. This is my lock, this next one. Write this down. Pacers -5 against Orlando at home. Orlando's the worst team in the NBA. Pacers have had a day off after a good win. They're playing a bunch of young dudes. They're playing a bunch of dudes that are absolute studs. Take the Pacers tonight. I was talking to the voice of the Pacers, Mark Boyle. And Mark Boyle is not a fanboy. Mark Boyle, in fact, called the Pacers outing a couple weeks ago embarrassing, unprofessional, and he did it on the air. And Boyle is one of those guys that I listen to and I say, you know what? He owes nothing to nobody. If they told him he had to quit tomorrow, he'd be, hey, he's good. So he tells the truth. And he made this point. He goes, Dan, and he set it up for me, and I won't bother you here. He goes, but this young group of Pacers with a bunch of guys hurt is playing as well, if not better, than the Pacers have played all year. Certainly with more energy, certainly without guys clogging things up. I'm telling you, tonight, the Pacers. If you make one bet tonight, make it the Pacers -5 if you want to move that line down. If you don't want to put a lot of money, just bet them to win. If you want to put them in a parlay, take them just to win. But do yourself a favor and put the Pacers in whatever it is that you are doing. Whatever it is, put them in there. I promise you, this is my bet tonight. You know, boom. Bada bing, bada boom. All right. The game I'm also checking out tonight, Wisconsin at Illinois, over 140. I like this bet. Reason I'm betting this is it's a weird game. Illinois is like a 6 or 7 point favorite. Wisconsin's one of those teams that, they play well on the road. The road doesn't bother them. I don't know if 6 is enough. I can see it being, I just didn't like it. But I want to watch the game. This is what I call, I'm going to watch the game, so I'm going to bet the game. It's at Illinois. Illinois is the kind of team that can get up and down the court. They can go get 75 to 90 on you. Wisconsin is not that slow down team. They're averaging 77 points a game. They can get down the floor. They're not afraid to make they're not afraid of a crowd. They play their own way. They're not going to be backed off. I like over 140 here. I don't love it. The only bet that I love, if we're going to win $1,000, let's start it today. All right, let's start this today. The road to $1,000. I've got my yellow pad, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this every day. We're going to bet $110 on the Pacers -5. It's going to give us 100 back. All right? The line may change. I think it's going to go up. Let's do that. That's the road to 1,000. I'll put it out there. Road, maybe it doesn't happen. Hey, look, there's no guarantees in betting. And you got to win a lot more than you lose because of the juice. But this is our first bet on the road to making $1,000. Pacers bet $110 to win 100 back, which means we will be up 100. You'll get 210 back, but we already bet 110 of it, so our profit is 100. The road to 1,000 starts with the Pacers -5 against the horse bleep team. Then you know what I'm going to do on the road to 1,000? I'm going to parlay this, just a $10 parlay, these three teams. So if we win the Pacers game, we're only up 90. But if we win both, the road to 1,000 gets a lot quicker. All right, Allison Williams, what's the right word? She's owed an apology, number one. The most courageous woman in sports. Next. Welcome back. I'm putting my bets in on DraftKings. The road to $1,000, A-Dubs. I'm giving the people what they want here, and I'm trying to make them some money. So I'm just sitting here.
Can you take me on that road too?
I don't have. It's going to be just unbelievable. Hey, first, you're owed an apology by the world. I mean, you stood up and you said, "Look, I'm not getting vaxxed. I want to have a family." So now people are absolutely losing their minds when a whistleblower in the Army came out and said, hey, guess what? There is evidence, and everybody knows it. There's a 300% increase in miscarriages in over a 5-year period, with one of the years, I guess, being, since we've had a vax. Basically, in the 1 year of the vax, there's a 300% increase in miscarriages. The world owes you an apology. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm not holding my breath, that's for sure. The thing that's interesting, though, is so that came out recently with that report. But if you actually look at the New England Journal of Medicine report that came out when I was making my decision, so it would have been over the summer, their numbers were really screwy when it came to miscarriages and what they call like spontaneous abortions. And essentially, I'm going to try and simplify this, but what they did in their report was they included all women who got the injection during pregnancy, regardless of when you got the injection, first trimester, second trimester, third trimester, right? So they included all women in their final calculation, but then they divided them into two groups, those who had a miscarriage prior to 21 weeks and those who had it after. But they included the women who got the injection in their third trimester in the numbers, calculating the percentage of them that miscarried in the first 21 weeks. That doesn't make sense. So by the way they did their numbers, it was completely on average, was like a 12% miscarriage rate. It was on par with like the national average. But when you looked at how they broke it down, they incorrectly, to people much smarter than I's realization, included all women in the number of women that miscarried in that first 21 weeks. And when you took those out, it increased to like an 86% miscarriage rate, which was alarming. And that was available, last summer. The other thing that cracks me up is these reports that are coming out, like if you watch mainstream media, that nope, there's no change in menses, like it's temporary, it's a day longer for women's menstrual cycles, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you something. First of all, how they got that was out of Oregon, and it was from women who track their periods on an app, and they noticed in the app they added a day or moved it a day later. It was like very minimal changes. Let me tell you something. Women only talk about their periods, Dan, when it's really weird. Okay? When it's off a day or late a day, people don't talk about it. We roll with it, okay? No, this is how shit goes sometimes. When we are talking about it, and this is why they looked into it, and the NIH committed over $1 million to study the changes to women's menstrual cycles. When we talk about it, it's because shit ain't right, and we know it, and it's because it's off a day. So that I'm calling bullshit on too. But it's all what you watch and what you read. One says it's fine, one says it's not. Bottom line, everybody across the board is all coming out and saying natural immunity is the best form of immunity. And every major study that has any credibility in the entire world shows that. And that's where I think I really am owed an apology, because we are still learning the long-term effects of this thing. And and that was the other thing. The ABC report was like, impact to infertility long-term is unlikely. I'm like, wait, it's January, February 2022, right? Like, this thing has been on a year, and you're telling me you have long-term projections. Anyway, but there isn't denying natural immunity now, and I've had COVID, and I cannot understand, except for political and social reasons, why anyone who has had COVID would get this injection. So thank you for believing I should get an apology, but I probably won't.
You should, and here's the thing. You should get your job back, whatever you want. I mean, look, Lee said this, Dan, people can argue whatever they want to argue. Lee's my wife, for those of you tuning in. She said, you can argue whatever you want, but if you're a young woman that wants to have a family and you see these numbers somewhere, I don't give a damn. You take them serious. Like, somebody can come back and refute them, that's fine.
Right.
But
and they
when
could come out long term to be wrong, and that's fine. But why take that risk? So it's a risk benefit analysis,
right.
And that should be for an individual. And that's what I said. I have to tell you something really weird too that happened this week. I was on my Instagram, and all of a sudden I had all these messages from when my announcement came out about leaving ESPN back in October. And they were all of a sudden in my top requests. And I'm like, how did I miss these? These were from prominent people well known throughout our business, internationally. People who had upwards of 500,000 followers were verified and had messaged me messages of support, and I never saw them. And I thought, oh, well, like maybe it was something weird with my account settings or something bizarre. And there were several, and in there were women in our industry who reached out and were like, Allison, I got this against my better instinct. I did not want to get this injection, but I love my job. As you know, like these jobs are hard to get. So I got it. And now I'm at a fertility specialist and they can't figure out what's going on with my ovaries. Tell me there isn't a connection. Now, this person isn't speaking out publicly, and I understand why. Like that's a hard freaking place to be in. But there were so many messages that were of support or confirming why I didn't want to get it. And they've been buried for like, what now, 4 months? And I thought it was my account. Well, then an account I follow on Instagram screenshotted theirs, and there's like stand for health freedom. So they're super involved in medical freedom. They had the same thing, messages buried for like, theirs was 50 some weeks. So what's going on that not only are they trying to like censor Joe Rogan and people with these large platforms, they're censoring messages of support to individuals who are speaking out and taking a stand. Like it blew my mind. And I messaged them and they're like, you are the 5th person that's reached out and said the same thing. That is kind of like a line in this movement for medical freedom. And they're actually suppressing like within our own messages support. It blew my mind. It creeped me out.
That doesn't surprise based on, look, I'm no expert on algorithms. I'm no expert on social media in terms of what happens when you should do things, not do things, how things are hidden, but it doesn't surprise me based on what I've read.
Yeah, it's weird.
Were any of the messages crushing you?
Yeah. What's that?
Were any of the messages crushing you?
Suppressed? Positive. And they were all like, here's my number. Do you know, and a lot of them actually were interview requests asking me to come on podcast, like saying, hey, like, what can I help you out job wise? All opportunities, support that I had no idea about. And then I'm going through them. I'm like, I look like an asshole because I haven't responded to these people and look like I ignored them.
Right.
So I messaged them. I'm like, I don't know why I'm just seeing this, but thank you, yada, yada. But there's some weird crap going on. And I'm sorry, for me, the more you censor and the more you try and like bury something, the more I want to know what's going on, because you don't censor a lie. You don't panic about a lie. Like when the truth starts to come out is when people get real weird and start to do some things that they wouldn't otherwise do.
Did you got the negative messages though?
Oh yeah. But what's interesting too about people like from the psychological side is they will send the messages of hate and vitriol and you're an idiot and you're killing my grandma and all this other shit. And I hope you and your family die. They'll post that publicly where everybody can see it. So that's why they post it on Twitter. They post it in your comments section on your photos on Instagram. But they don't direct message you it. Like it was probably a 10-to-1 ratio of positive to negative in my direct messages in my Instagram. But it was like 10-to-1 the other side, you know, on the public ones. So it's very interesting how people, they want that hate and that condemnation to be public. And they want to like rile up the people who think like them and they're posting of it. It's very, very seldom in a private message, which I find interesting.
There's another group that owes you an apology. These freaking, no, seriously. I mean, I saw that. Lee and I were talking and go, man, these people, like somebody that says, well, you can go and look at another study that says the opposite thing. Sure, you can. But again, if I'm a young woman and I want to have a family, it's risk analysis, as you said.
I just don't want
I don't need to.
Yeah, I didn't want the question. I didn't want something to happen because we don't have long term, and I didn't want something to happen.
Because then there's guilt. There's guilt involved.
And you have to
too.
wonder. Yes, you have to wonder. Even if it's not related, you have to wonder. And I couldn't live with that doubt and that question. If something happens in 5 years and my kid has like a congenital heart issue that we're just now learning about, and the first thing in my mind is going to be, oh my God, is this because of that injection I got?
Right. That to me trumps everything. But I feel guilty about everything. I act like I don't, but my wife's like, man, you feel guilty. You know, so I would be, I know. I know. I would. I do. I would. I couldn't live with that. Like I
couldn't either. I couldn't because it's the principle, right? So that because I couldn't because I knew the only reason I was getting the injection would be to keep my job. There was no health benefit for me. Okay, I'd had COVID. I'm young. I'm not in a demographic that's high risk. I have no underlying health conditions. I'm healthy, all that stuff. So I knew there was no health reason for me to do this. So it was purely to keep my job. And why do you need to keep your job? You need to keep your job, A, because you love it, but B, because it provides for you financially. So for me, it was like putting money over my family. And how could I ever like sleep at night, if we started to struggle to conceive, or even it got delayed like 6 months or something. I mean, that throws, like, my husband and I aren't young. Like we chose to have children later in life. So it's like to push it, or if it delayed it, or if it caused problems, like I just couldn't, I don't know. I couldn't live with myself.
No. You can live with the hate from people you don't know, and it goes away in 10 minutes. I mean, it pisses me off because everybody's just so quick to jump on you, and then more and more want to pile on you, and the next thing you know, what the bullshit that is said about you becomes what people perceive about you, and it's all complete horse shit.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk football. You ready?
Yes.
I'm sending. By the way, though, I will tell you, I'm sending this to our people at Fox. This needs to get out. People need to understand not only your side of it, but a rational discussion of it. Like, people that are hating on women for all right, when COVID first came out, it cost me money. 60 days, things drive me nuts. For 60 days, every day on my show, I had an Eskenazi health professional, whether it was a nurse, a doctor, somebody cleaning the rooms, on to discuss and to celebrate them, okay? Those same people that had to stop in their garages, take off all their clothes, have a robe in their garage, put it on to walk in their house, to take a shower, clean all their stuff, wearing gloves around their house, are now being fired because of the angels, the heroes, are now being fired. And it drives me batshit fucking crazy, if you want to know the truth. Sorry to swear.
No, don't.
It does.
It should. And it should
does.
make more people more angry. And that actually makes me really angry, because why people aren't furious about this is beyond me. And there's so many people who privately feel like you, Dakich, but publicly, if we're going there, they're being fucking cowards. And they don't say anything because they know it's going to get them dirty and it's going to rouse shit up. And I'm like, at this point, your silence is part of the problem. And if more people would speak out in support who privately feel exactly like we do, but are publicly silent, like maybe there could be a shift. And you're right. It breaks my heart. I mean, here these people were bringing them food and we're celebrating them and they're America's heroes and all that. And now it's like, oh, if you're vaccinated, hey, yeah, come on to work even when you're sick. But if you're not, you're fired and you're out of a job and you're done. Like, these are the same people. They worked through this. Like, they know this virus better than anyone. But for some reason, the Supreme Court of our country feels like they're the only subset of the population that shouldn't be able to make their own health decisions. It doesn't make any sense.
Honest to God, and like I've had a number of them that were on my show send me, thank you notes or stuff like that, but also they've said, we worked through a pandemic that we didn't know about.
Yeah.
And now we're not allowed to work in a pandemic that we already made it through. It's infuriating.
And you're making the pandemic worse. And people are all pissed off, like, oh, well, if you were vaccinated, the hospitals wouldn't be overrun because all these unvaccinated people are in hospitals.
Bullshit.
No, hospitals are overrun because they're profit-making machines, and because it doesn't make an ICU any money to run at anything less than 90% capacity. Now you also have staff shortages because you fired half of your workers because they won't take an injection that they don't need or want. So you have hospitals who are set up to make money, who always operate at capacity because that's the way they make money. And then you've got half of your staff being fired over a mandate that's complete bullshit. So people need to get off this, it's the unvaccinated overrunning our hospitals, and that's why you can't get into an ER bullshit, because that's all a lie too.
Oh, there's no doubt. I hear crying in the background.
Do you? Can you hear Lyle? He's so freaking loud.
Lyle's pissed. Lyle's pissed too.
Lyle's mad pissed.
Lyle should be pissed. He's pissed.
Like, you messing with my mama.
Yeah, I'll be messing with my mother. I'll kick some ass right here. I'll let my voice be heard. I think this is a conversation that people need to hear, and I think this is a conversation more people need to stand up to. And neither you nor I are saying that this isn't a real disease. We understand that it is. We're just bringing conversation to. I've had it. No, I haven't had it twice. I had it once.
Did you? I had it. My whole family had it.
Me too. I took the vaccine because I wanted to work. I mean, I had to go in I guess I could have just done the show from home, but I've had my kids. I've had it, and I'll be honest with you. I'm not one of those that's overly proud that he had the vaccine. I'm not overly not proud, but I'm a little bit like.
But okay, so
I'll do it.
That's another interesting part too. Like very few of people who feel like you do in the media will express how they got it under duress, or they got it to keep their job, or they didn't want to get it, or they weren't excited about it. But the other side of the people in the media are like, I got it, I'm boosted, I've got mine as soon as I could, and they all like flaunt it and they're applauded for it, and it's like they're put on this pedestal for how proud they are that they got their vaccine. But then there's a whole lot of people, I'm telling you guys, I hear from them, who you watch on your TV every single day, and they got that thing very much against their will, and very much like you did, Dan, to keep their job when they did not want it, did not feel comfortable with it. There are, and it's way more than anybody would think, because anybody who does talk about getting the vaccine on air talks about how great it was and how easy it was, and how now they got COVID and they're so thankful they had the vaccine because they would have been sick. Like Stephen A. going on how he was in the hospital and almost died, and he's fully vaccinated, and he's like, I would have died if I didn't have the vaccine. Maybe, but you also have no way to know that. Like there's no way to establish what would have happened if you got COVID. Like it goes both ways. So it's like you have to worship it publicly. Otherwise you're a Trumpist and you're a white supremacist and you're like a crazy virus denier and you're killing people.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a virus denier, but I do listen to doctors, and I do have a doctor that has told his family, my best friend and his wife, hey, look, if you're a woman in particular, there's not enough research. If you're a guy, there's not enough research. Do your own research. And that's all I've ever said. Yeah. Let's get to some idiotic rewards. You ready?
Sure.
That was a great conversation. That's the kind of conversation we should have in this world where, you don't just get ripped for not having the, which way does the political wind blow? Let's go that way so that I can be, a decent human being to people that I don't fucking know. But anyway, I digress.
You're salty today. I like it.
You got me fired up.
I love
Person
it.
most likely to explode during a game award. The damn award. Don't at me. Anybody better than Fran McCaffrey in terms of it? Red face explosion.
Like literally and figuratively, he could explode at any moment during a game. The only one that I've seen come close, Tom Crean. Like he would go crazy. At Indiana, especially, I think he's a little more like in check since he had his year off and now he's at Georgia and stuff. But Tom Crean would be up there, but nobody gets redder and looks like they're just gonna combust than Fran. There's like the whole Fran index, right? The shades
Fran
of red.
Con. Yeah. Mm-hmm. When I was playing at Indiana, I was a freshman, and our star player, Randy Whitman, said, when Coach Nutt yells at you, just stare at him, like right in the eye. Don't look anywhere, just right in the eye. So it was a national TV game against Iowa. He calls me over, and the whole crowd got silent to listen to what he was going to, call me. I stared him in the eye, and I swear to God, Allison, I could see his eyebrows growing as he was yelling at me. You dumb son of... And it's like the pressure was putting his eyebrows out, and I'm starting to laugh almost, but I didn't think I should.
But
I've
you
always
held
paid
it.
attention to who's...
Awesome.
I did. And it was a close game, and I got to play, which was rare. But I've always watched the coach getting ready to implode. All right, hey, pal. How about you proofread your text and know who you're sending it to award goes to Bill Belichick based on the Brian Flores lawsuit. What are your thoughts?
If that's what tipped him off to the fact that they'd already made the hire was that text message, I mean, that's bad news bears right there. What a crazy ordeal. And I feel like the person Flores should be most, angry with, is the Dolphins. Like, what were they thinking getting rid of him? First of all, I mean, I think that was just stupid. And it sounds like him and Stephen Ross had beef, and there were issues, like he wouldn't tank and all that stuff that's swirling around now. But like Bill Belichick, I mean, you just got to feel like such a jackass if you're the one that tipped him off to this. I mean, and that's the other part I don't understand is like, why did Flores still go to the interviews and the dinner? I mean, if he was really convinced that they'd already made the hire, I thought that was odd too. Like he was like, I was forced to sit through this knowing that I'm not their guy. I found that kind of odd. Like, why don't you say, no, I'm not going, but maybe he thought there was still a chance, or I don't know. Yeah, come on, Billy. Like, we've all done that though, right? It's just usually it's like a little embarrassing for you and not national news.
I did it on Twitter and it became national news the other day. I put a picture in the wrong spot. I put it in the replies instead of in my actual tweet, and people just killed me. And I screwed it up, but that's why I saw this. I don't know if you saw this, but Joe Staley's like a legend. He came after
Melissa Whitworth, yeah.
Andrew. Yeah. Look, hey, social media gets us all at some point. Joe Staley, did you see that?
I did, but like, I felt like Andrew kind of blew it up more than it was by attacking him for it, because Melissa even, and I know the Whitworths from their time in Cincinnati, and they're really good, fun people. And like Melissa likes to throw them back, which is probably one of the reasons I liked her. And she, the next day, was like, hey, is there an app to delete text you send out when you're drinking, right? Because she obviously had been drinking after the game and celebrating and whatever, and then sent that tweet out, which I didn't think was a huge deal. Like, I'll buy your tickets, don't sell them to the other team. Joe Staley, like, why do you even care that she tweeted that? And then I didn't think his was really trolling her. I mean, it wasn't, I don't know. I felt like it was all really blown out of proportion, personally. And then Andrew, like,
I felt like
yeah, like he got all pissed off and goes after Staley about it and stands up for his wife, which I get. But I just didn't think it warranted him getting that publicly, like, worked up about it. Does that make sense?
You know what I thought initially, and maybe I still think this. I thought initially there must be. I know it was worded that there wasn't bad blood between them, but I thought to myself, I wonder if there's bad blood between these two guys, because it did not seem that it needed to be blown up that way. It just didn't. For what all right, but I read it, and it's one of those deals. Sometimes you read something and you're like, oh, what the hell is this?
Like, is it a slow news cycle day? Like, why is this? A thing? I don't know.
Yeah, both are great.
It overshadowed the better ticket tweet social media story of the Rams, and that was Kelly Stafford, Matthew's wife, buying a handful of tickets for Rams fans. I just thought that was so cool. She saw how expensive the tickets were. She's like, this is insane. Tell me, like, why you deserve to go, and I'm going to buy a bunch of tickets for some fans. Like, I thought that's the story that people should be covering, not this like stupid stuff.
Yeah, I agree. No, I saw that. I like Kelly Stafford. I don't know whether I'm supposed to or not. I don't know. I just know that when she does something, I kind of watch.
Dude, she like survived brain cancer and stuff. She's the most adorable cheerleader at Georgia. If you don't like her, like, I don't know, figure it out, because she's very likable. And she has like this podcast. She keeps it really real. She actually talked about throwing, I think it was pizza at a San Francisco fan, like on the road. Yeah. And like, she owned it. She's like, I've been drinking. I was pissed off. They were being jerks. Like, she keeps it real. I like her too.
I think there should be two buttons on Twitter. One is the drinking button, and the other one, I tell you what, when Lee and I get a little wine in the summer, we go on Amazon Prime. God damn. We go on Amazon Prime, and next thing you know, I had a bearskin rug show up at my house. I did. I had a bearskin rug.
Oh, that's amazing.
Like, oh, man.
There should be, like, when you go to push tweet, like, there's a red or a green, and, like, you push the red if you've been drinking, so people know it comes up in a different font. I could have, but see, that actually would be bad, because then I probably would have sent a lot of tweets that I wrote, like, during this whole pandemic, and then I probably would have, gotten fired sooner.
Yeah, right. I'm tired. Joe Burrow said I'm too rich to have fake diamonds. People lose their mind over the stupidest thing. He is too rich to have fake diamonds. Is that wrong?
No. We pay these guys millions and millions and millions of dollars, and then we ask if their diamonds are real. Like, really? And then people get mad when they're like, yeah, do you know how much money I make? Why would I buy fake diamonds? Like, come on. That's so stupid. He makes way, like, what else is he gonna, you can't spend the amount of money the NFL quarterbacks make anymore. And like, it doesn't matter how much trip you have, like, it's insane. So yes, the fact that people are mad he said that is just, they're people with fake diamonds.
I explained this to a friend of mine. I go, a quarterback makes a lot more than this, but let's just say, for the sake of argument, he makes $1.2 million a year. You understand that's $100,000 a month, right? Like, okay, my mortgage is $10,000. All right. I mean, damn, buy yourself some diamonds, and when you set it,
That's
Own it.
like
Who
when
cares?
Chris Mack got fired and they broke it down, like he's going to get $113,000 a month for the next 5 years. I'm like, holy moly.
Right?
Because it's hard. I'm like this, at least. I don't know if you like to wrap my mind around what 140 million looks like or 200 million looks like. Like I can't fathom that. Like I don't have a way to grasp like what I could do with it or what that would mean or anything. Like that's so far gone, right? But when you say $130,000 a month, or like when you break it down by paycheck, you're like, oh, I lived on that. Yeah. Like, yeah, a month.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a lot of money. Yeah.
That's insane.
It's insane.
Totally insane.
It's insane. It's completely insane.
And everybody's mad. Whoopi Goldberg, how do you still have a job? I guess she got suspended. I know how she has a job. The show's popular and she's kind of the face of it, right?
And she's a member of the left. So if somebody were to say what Whoopi Goldberg said and was a white conservative, they'd be out of a job. They would be cancel culture list number 1. You are fired. See you later. Show canceled. Like, I mean, look at what, like Roseanne Barr, she had the number 1 show on TV and she's done. So Whoopi still has a job because she's Whoopi Goldberg and she's a person of color on a very, very left liberal leaning show, and the left doesn't cancel the left. So she will not get canceled. And I'm not saying necessarily that she should, because I don't believe in cancel culture. What she said was incredibly misinformed and hurtful in a lot of ways.
Stupid. Yeah.
The best piece, like opinion kind of breakdown of this whole thing that I have heard, and this is not because I'm with the Daily Wire now, go listen to Ben Shapiro's podcast talking about Whoopi Goldberg and why what she said matters. And he talks about the intersectional hierarchy of racism. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating. I need to like re-listen to it because I listened to it once and Ben's way too smart. And the other thing Ben says that I think is very true, and like Whoopi is one of many people on television who aren't necessarily intelligent and smart, but they're famous. So they get jobs. Like we have to stop with this. You're famous, so you should be on TV and everybody should listen to your opinion, because this is where it lands us. We need smarter people on television. That's why everybody listens to Joe Rogan. It's not because Joe Rogan is super famous or even really super smart, but he's smart enough to know who the smart people are and to give them a platform. Like we have dumbed down our shows so much now, it's ridiculous. And that's why there's no space for debate and conversation, because the last thing a dumb person wants to do is have a conversation with a smart person who's smarter than them and thinks differently than them. But Ben's podcast, I was fascinated by, because he is Jewish. And so he obviously has a tremendous knowledge on not just the Holocaust, but the history of that race and that ethnic group and how they've been treated and how now they are like assimilated. It's like into the white culture. And so now it's like, you can't be racist against a Jew if they're on the same kind of hierarchy as you. It's really interesting. So like racism only happens when it's a person higher on the hierarchy victimizing a person lower. So now that Jews have like assimilated to white, which is higher, the racism that is done to them by people of color or that are Muslim, that are brown, is not viewed the same way as it would be by a white supremacist. It's really interesting. I'm probably not properly explaining it because it's really advanced smart shit. But I was super intrigued by it. I had never heard about this like intersection hierarchy of race. And then he also explains too, I mean, it's like things Hitler said. I mean, he viewed the Jews as a different race. Would be like, what are you talking about? There was a time when if you were Irish, you were subject to racism, or Italian in this country. I mean, the fact that she is so almost like willfully ignorant to a lot of the history of racism is alarming. And I hope she actually does take this 2-week hiatus to learn about why what she said was so harmful and just wrong, just completely factually incorrect.
I get nervous every time you're on the show. I represent the dumb. You represent the smart, although we do have similar
you're a little bit like Rogan. Like we're both, neither one of us are just super smart, right? But we're both smart enough to know that and to be able to talk to people who are way smarter than us and learn things and grow and like have conversations with people who don't necessarily think like us. Like that's the issue right now. I feel like is there's a lot of people who aren't incredibly intelligent, but they're very famous and they only want to have conversations with people who think like them. And that's why we're all in this weird ass spot that we're in right now.
Man, I think the dumbing down of everything is so important. I got to run. You're awesome. We're going to talk football next week, though.
What did that mean?
Super Bowl next week.
People like, what did I do?
This has been way more fun. This has been way more fun, and this needs to be all over because this is. I think some conversations. You know, we can't wait for somebody to screw something up and make that viral. How about we understand that people screw stuff up and let's talk about some important things with some smart people like what you just did and make those things the important things in our world. I got to run. Lauren, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
D-double-D.
You're the best. Bye-bye. That's Allison Williams. Everybody, thank you. We will talk to you tomorrow.